Hello and welcome to I Hit Drums. This is lesson 3 of my beginner course, and this is going to be all about how to hold the sticks correctly. Now, if this is the first video you've seen of the beginner course, you've already missed 2. Lesson 1 was playing through a full song, and this got you started with learning some basic grooves and learning how to read some basic rhythms. Lesson 2 introduced you to the entire drum kit as well as the notes for each part of the drum kit. And this is really useful information that you're going to need going forwards. But another really useful bit of information that you're going to need is how to hold the sticks. Holding the sticks correctly is going to help you move around the drums with ease and also limit any chance of injury. If you go for years and years holding the sticks incorrectly, eventually you're actually going to do some damage to your hands. So if you want to play the drums with ease, lower your energy output whilst playing, and avoid injury, let's get started. Today we're going to be looking at 4 different ways that you can hold the sticks. And we're going to start with the traditional grip. And as the name suggests, this is the traditional way that you're going to hold the drumsticks. I'm going to discuss traditional grip from the perspective of a right-hand player. So that means if you're a left-hand player, whatever I do in my left hand, you need to do in your right, and vice versa. Whatever is in my right hand, you do in your left. But this is the perspective of a right-handed player because I am a right-handed player. So let's start with the left hand. So you're going to pick the stick up and it's going to sit in the crook of your thumb and index finger. And then it's going to rest in between your middle finger and your ring finger. Now there is a balance point on the stick, so if you're holding it too far back, there's going to be too much weight at the front and it's not going to balance very well. Likewise, if you hold it too far forwards, it's not going to get much bounce either, and there's going to be too much weight on the back. So make sure that you find that balance point, and this balance point you want to be within the crook of your thumb and your index finger. Once you're in that balance point, it'll feel good as you hold it, and then the stick is just going to rest on that ring finger with the middle finger on top and the index finger, and make sure you don't squeeze this to death. You want a good grip between the thumb and the index finger, and then the other fingers are just going to kind of cradle the stick gently. If I strike the drum with this, you see how my hand's moving? It's kind of a whipping motion. So that is the left hand for traditional grip. For the right hand, you want to use your thumb and your index finger, and that's the main grip in the right hand. And again, you want to hold that on the balance point of the stick. So it's not quite the middle, because remember you've got a thin end of the stick and a fatter end of the stick, so it's going to be a little bit towards the back from the middle. Now, if you do use Vic-Firth sticks, then the flag is usually the balance point. I'm using London Drumstick Company, and they've got a little logo part that says custom on here, and that's a balance point on those sticks. You're holding it with the index finger and the thumb, and the other 3 fingers, again, just kind of cradle the stick gently. You don't want to squeeze this either. The stick should be able to move in your hand. So from there, I now have this position. I've got the grip in the right hand, just with the thumb and the index finger, and I've got the grip in the left hand where it's in the crook of my thumb and index finger, and then resting on my ring finger. So if I go between the 2, that's kind of what it looks like. Now I should stress, I am not a traditional grip player, but that should give you a good starting point for the traditional grip. This grip is mostly used within jazz and within fusion, and it can be useful in any style, but most of the time you won't see it outside of jazz and fusion. But you should try all of these grips because you want to make sure that you understand how they work, and maybe you might find that there's a preference of one over the other, and that's very important for your playing on the drums. Moving on to matched grip. Now, there are actually 2 varieties of matched grip that we're going to look at. And match grip is probably the most widely used grip within drumming. And the two varieties that we're going to look at are German and French. And each of these varieties use different kind of parts of the hand and the mechanics of the body to play slightly differently. So we'll start with the German grip, because this is probably the easiest one to get you started. You're going to hold the right stick exactly the same way that I showed you how to hold it within traditional grip. And then in the left hand, you're going to do exactly the same thing as you're doing in the right hand, just a mirror image. So both sticks are being held by the index finger and the thumb, with the other three fingers just kind of cradling the stick. Make sure you've got a little bit of the stick poking out at the bottom. I forgot to mention that in the traditional grip. But you do want maybe about an inch and a bit, well, centimeters, that's probably about 2.5 centimeters poking out the bottom. And that should get you into that balance point of the stick. Again, if you hold it too far back, you're going to have too much weight at the front of the stick and it's not going to bounce very well. Doesn't work. Likewise, if you hold it too far forwards, there's too much weight at the back and it looks ridiculous. If you hold it on the balance point, you're getting lots of bounces there. And those bounces are going to help you when it comes to playing around the kit, because when you strike the drum, that you don't want the stick burying into the drum. If you're doing that, then you're squeezing the stick too much and you're actually going to generate some injuries over time. So do not press into the drum or the cymbal. Very important. What you want to do is strike a drum or a cymbal and the stick is coming away from the drum afterwards. German grip, back on track. Once you've got that grip going, make sure that the back of your hand is facing up. Because with German grip, you actually want a lot of the control and the power is coming from the wrist. So this is very much a wrist playing technique. When you play from the wrist, not only have you got more power, you've also got a greater range of motion. The hand can move all the way up and down because the wrist can flex that way. And you can use this into your drumming to create more power. Let's take a look at French grip. This is very similar because we are still doing matched grip here. So matched grip is how you're actually holding each stick, you're matching the grip, that's the same grip. But for French grip, you're actually going to turn the hands in so that the thumbs are pointing to the ceiling rather than the back of the hand. So in German grip, you're getting this almost 90-degree angle between the sticks, but with French grip, they kind of parallel. And what this grip allows you to do is play with the fingers a lot more. The range of motion with this grip is a lot less. If I turn to German grip, I can go a lot further down. So with French grip, this is more about the fingers. So if you want to play quietly or you want to play fast, then the fingers is where you're going to get some of that speed. And again, the same grip as before, but make sure you're not squeezing the stick because you want the fingers to move freely. If I just do one hand with that, can you see that my arm isn't moving here, my wrist isn't moving, it's all the fingers. If I turn back to German grip, it's more the wrist. Notice that's not as quick either. It takes more effort to be as fast in German grip as it does in French grip. So when you're playing the drums, you're quite likely going to be switching between German grip and French grip on a regular basis. Sometimes you might even have one grip in one hand and one grip in the other. So for example, if I was playing a hi-hat and a snare, I'd probably be in this position and I'd probably be doing German grip with both. If I then move to the ride cymbal, quite naturally you end up playing in French grip with the right hand, just because of the angle of your body. You go back to the hi-hat, you're now playing more with the wrist. You can play a French grip on the hi-hat as well if you want some more kind of even, delicate strikes, that's still doable. But generally you're probably going to be playing German grip, especially if you're doing kind of a lot of rock stuff and pop stuff. But then you're going to move back to the ride cymbal and suddenly you're in French grip again. So quite naturally some of these grip changes will happen. Now the last grip that we're going to look at is American grip. Now this is quite similar to the matched German grip, but it has some of the benefits of French grip. The main difference here is that you're not holding the stick with the index finger and the thumb. You're actually holding it with the middle finger and the thumb. And this index finger doesn't do a great deal. It's just kind of hanging out front where the other two fingers are behind. And the middle finger and the thumb is the main grip. So if you want to try this, I'd recommend actually having the sticks resting on the drum and then pinching it with the index finger and the thumb just to kind of get a feel for that position, and then put the other back two fingers around the stick, and then the index finger kind of rests on top. The index finger isn't actually gripping the stick. And what this does is that it puts the hands into the German grip position, but the fingers at the back kind of work a bit more like French grip. So it's kind of a combination of the two. So you've got that power of the German grip using the wrist, but you also have the finesse of the fingers in French grip. And this is why American grip is quite popular and quite versatile when you're playing the drums. Now, the good thing about American grip is that you have to be loose in the hands and the grip in order for it to feel right. If you squeeze it, it just doesn't really feel good. It doesn't work right. So that's quite useful for making sure you've got a nice loose grip. But for all of these different techniques, you want to make sure that your grip is nice and loose. And to begin with, if you drop a stick, that's actually okay because it means you're not over squeezing the stick. If you're kind of seeing the whites of your knuckles whilst you're playing, then you're squeezing it too hard. If you start getting lots of calluses on your hands, that means you're holding the sticks too hard as well. So you want to avoid that at all times. So I'll just do a few simple right, left rolls with those different grips. So just to recap, traditional, you've got it in the crook of your thumb and your index finger, resting on your ring finger, other two fingers on top, that's the left hand. And then the right hand is like the match grip with the index finger and the thumb, other fingers around the back, and you're just going to go between the two. So let's try traditional grip, right, left, right, left. I'll say 3 and 4 and then we'll go 3 and 4 and. Moving on to German grip, so German match grip. So index finger and thumb, the main grip for both sticks, fingers cradling gently, a little bit poking out the bottom. Try and make sure they're the same in each hand. Let's give that a try. 3 and 4 and. And now French grip. So we're going to turn the hands from that position we had in German grip, turn them in, and we're going to use more the fingers. Let's try that French grip a little bit faster, just so we can make use of that bounce and get the fingers going. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Something you might want to try with the French grip version is just single hand. And then switch. And that's going to help you build up those fingers. And then finally, the American grip. So we're going to be holding it with the middle finger and the thumb. Other two fingers just behind the stick. Index finger not doing a great deal. And you're in that kind of German grip position, but you've got access to the fingers at the back. So let's give that a try. 3 and 4 and. So 4 different grips that you can try. The traditional, the matched grip with German variation, the matched grip in French variation, and American grip. So 4 different grips. Try all of them, see how they feel. You could even try them around the drums just to see how they feel as you move around the kit. You might find, for example, that with traditional grip, it's quite comfortable on the snare drum, but then when you move around the kit, it can get a bit tricky, especially towards the high tom. You might end up hitting a hi-hat or a cymbal on your way there. Let me know which one you prefer. Let me know which one you think feels the best. And let me know if you're having any issues. Happy to help. But that's it for this lesson. Until next time, enjoy.